Hello everybody, my name is Tanner Kyler and today I'm in Tucson, Arizona in Tucson Mountain Park, Arizona, and we're going to be talking about the Saguaro Cactus, Carnegiea gigantea. This is the tallest species of cactus on Earth, which the record was 78 feet tall down in southern Arizona, Mexico. They get taller the further south you go, so up here north, this is kind of the furthest extent of their range, so they don't get quite as big. This one behind me is probably around 40 feet tall. These guys can live between 150 and 200 years, but some reports say that they can live over 300 years old. If I had to guess, this one is every bit of 200 years old. It is near a ravine, so it gets quite a bit of water here, so that's why it's so large. It's still in the base of this mountain, so it gets a lot of drainage from this mountain, and it isn't going to get too wet of feet, and the cold air is going to pool down here in the bottom of the valley, so the warmth is up here. So if you go down further lower in the valley, you'd think they get bigger, but they actually don't really like growing down there because all the cold pools down there. This cactus is really known for its large tree structure that it has. It's kind of an icon of the American Southwest. And this specific cactus right here, it just recently rained here in Arizona. And so it's probably honestly doubled its size since a few weeks ago before the rains. So during the summertime, the spines basically touch each other. You can't even touch the green part of the cactus, which is chlorophyll. So these spines all up and down this cactus are actually modified leaves, so they do not evaporate much water, and the green stems are what they photosynthesize with. Now they can photosynthesize through the spines, but they primarily photosynthesize through the green chlorophylls of the trunks. And this guy actually has a skeleton within it, and so whenever it drinks up water, it can expand and get much larger, holding twice as much of his own body weight in water. So this guy back here probably weighs more than an African elephant, if I had to guess, which is pretty significant, weighing as much as maybe a few pickup trucks. All right, so this is the rib cage of a saguaro here. So this one sadly passed away, but the ecological importance of these rib cages is very high, as a lot of beetles and insects and stuff will use these as a place to live. So they have these ribs that come up their body. This is what gives them their strength. And then whenever they fill full of water, these ribs can actually bend and swell, so they can pump a ton of water inside of them. And they're very pretty, these structures here, and it's very hard. So you can see how they can make things like tables and homes and shelters out of these things. People could. So they're also very swollen, all these. Normally you can't touch the cactus itself, and now it's rather easy between the spines. So during the summertime it dries up, and these will all be clustered together. And then during rains, these things will get 3-4 times as big, like doubling, tripling their weight, and they swell out like this to hold more water in the summertime, just throughout the year, because you never know, it couldn't, not rain here for another 2 years. So this guy's got to prepare. This is the Arizona state wildflower. This is also kind of the icon of Arizona. It's one of the big things that people come down here to see. And the Sonoran Desert, it is primarily lives in the Sonoran Desert, kind of pushes over to the extents of the Mojave, but down into the deserts of Mexico, you'll find them as well. They are closely related to the false saguaros, or the cardon cactus, which look pretty similar to this guy, but there are some distinct differences. So they bloom in late spring, early summer, and whenever they do that, it has a crown of white flowers that'll form on the growth tips of each arm. So they normally don't even form their first arm till around 80 to 100 years old. So that's why I know this one's probably pushing 200 years old with its large arms here. It's been here since probably the early 1800s growing here, and luckily never got damaged or hurt. And so those flowers that bloom on it are very important for bees, hummingbirds during the daytime. But the biggest pollinator of these guys are bats. So we have these long-nosed bats that come down here, that come up from Mexico in the summer, or late spring, early summer, to feed on the nectar. They're their main pollinators. So they actually, the saguaros open up all their blooms at night, so they can attract those bats in. So during the day, they only open up a few, and they'll pump some nectar up during the day, but at night, they really ramp up their production. That also helps with not losing a lot of moisture in the heat, because during the summertime, it can get up to 120 degrees. So these guys grow between sea level and about 4,000 feet elevation. Some do grow up towards 5,000 feet elevation, but they're definitely not going to get as large as this guy here is down here in a lower position. The taller, the higher you go up, the shorter these cactus are going to be, because the conditions are just rougher. There's more wind, there's less water. All of those factors play into its growth. Like I said, they are very slow growing. So they're not the most cold hardy cactus. They can survive down to around 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which is basically slightly below freezing, and they can endure periods of around 10 degrees Fahrenheit for very short intervals, mostly just a few hours in the morning, and it'll get warmed up by the sun. Because at night it does get rather chilly here, but during the day the sun heats up the air because it's very dry and it warms up very quickly. So, like I said, they're very cold. They're not very cold hardy, but they are very heat tolerant. So if you live in a very hot area like here in Arizona or Southern California, Southern Nevada, down into New Mexico, they can definitely live in temperatures that exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty incredible. All right, I just wanted to show how wide this guy is. So it's probably about 3 feet in diameter here in the widest point. That's just insane. I didn't know if you could tell in the video, so I wanted to get close to it. But we're going to go ahead and hike up to the top of this mountain behind us, and we're going to show you a valley full of these cactus on top to finish the rest of the video. If you want to show that, Talon? All right, so I don't know how well you can hear me here, but this is the absolute monster. This one's probably 45, 50 feet tall. Just wanted to show absolutely how tall these guys can get. This guy's probably pushing 250. Very old cactus. Really cool. Just wanted to throw this one in. I just thought I wanted to show this real quick before we get to the rest of the video. This is kind of another bowl here. It's really pretty. I filmed the rest of the video already, but I just wanted to throw this into the video because this is really cool. I'm gonna flip the camera around real quick. This is really cool. So we got a ton of huge cactus back here. These are the saguaros growing up against the rock face over there. They're getting really tall because they're like supported and there's not as much wind up here by these hills. These are huge. Like that one's probably easily 50, 60 feet tall. It's crazy. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the peak, but before we get there, I wanted to show this little guy. So this is a baby saguaro. This one's probably 3 or 4 years old. Now, something interesting about saguaros is they don't grow every single year. So like their seeds germinate, millions of them fall into the ground, and the conditions have to be just perfect. They have to have a both rainy winter and spring, or I think it's summer and winter. So they have to have 2 rainy seasons in a year, and it has to be predominantly warm and wet for them to germinate and grow properly. So a lot of them will germinate every year, but then most of them die. So you have to have a perfect year for them all to grow. So they grow in intervals. So every like 3 to 4 years, you'll have a really good year, maybe even once every 10 years if it's a bad, decade or so. All the saguaros will grow at once. And then 3 or 4 years will go by and then babies will grow again. So they don't grow up every single year. So when you're looking out across, you'll normally see like levels of the aged cactus. So you'll see ones that are 10 years old, and you'll see ones that are like 15 years old, and ones that are 20 years old, and you won't have ones that are born every single year if the conditions are not perfect. I don't know how to exactly explain it, but it kind of feels like we're on a coral reef. We're in a desert. It's kind of the complete opposite, but... All right, so this actually is the hole I was talking about. So this is kind of like kind of a remnant of the cactus forest that once grew here. It's kind of this bowl. It's harder to get to because there's mountains on all sides, so also very steep, so not much has ever messed with it. But these cactus are very culturally significant to the Native American people who live here in Arizona and occupied this land first. And one of the big things is in the spring they flower, and then in the summer they produce a fruit. It's a large red fruit. It is edible, and it is used to make wines and jams during different ceremonial practices. So they actually have special permission to come out here and collect and harvest the seed pods to make those wines, and they still do that to this day. One of the things is their stature and stuff kind of is a symbol of strength and endurance out here in this desert, which is very hard to live in, very harsh. A lot of these animals are very well adapted to the heat and dry, though. So they are not endangered, but they do face a lot of threats. Things like climate change are causing droughts to become longer and more frequent, and things also like habitat loss. So you can see back here behind us, you can see Tucson encroaching out. It's actually destroying a lot of the desert areas that these guys live in, so they do face potential threats. Also, invasive species like buffalo grass is taking over, and salt cedars as well, and these species are prone to cause fires, which are burning these guys up at a rate at which they wouldn't have historically. So they are very resilient, but these things are very hard on these very slow growing cactus. A lot of these larger cactus are pretty safe, but the babies themselves are the ones that are a threat with the buffalo grass and the other invasives, because they go up around them, they shade them out, and they kill them. And they also cause fires to burn through and kill these guys. So I would assume these large ones are semi-fireproof, but probably don't like fire too much. They are also very poached, so that makes them vulnerable. A lot of people come out and try to poach these, but there is a very harsh fine here in Arizona. I do believe it's somewhere like $5,000 or $10,000, and you also can get prison time for poaching these incredible plants. I mean, you can live 200-300 years old, and they are worth quite a bit of money, so people try to steal them quite often. But yeah, there's lots else to say. There's the butcher birds, or they're a type of woodpecker that actually bores holes in them and lives and has their nest in there. Also elf owls and other species use them. Sometimes predators will use them as perches to look out across the land. Just a very interesting species. One of the most bizarre plants probably on the earth. Every time I come out here, they just blow my mind how they look. They don't look like they should exist at all. They look like these giant tubes or these water towers or whatever. But like this one down here, it's probably a 200-year-old cactus, could be pushing 300. It's hard to say how old they are because they don't actually get rings like trees do. So no one really knows exactly how old they can get, because the people who have been here to actually calculate how old we've only been, this area was taken only about 100 years ago or so. So we only have evidence of that, so we don't know exactly how long they can live, because some of these could have been around during the 1700s, and we would have no clue because they don't have growth rings to tell us exactly how old they are. This one's probably 45, 50 feet tall. This one's a monster. Just wanted to show. There's another really big one right there. Well, I think that's about it for this video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, I'd love to hear it in the comments, and have a great rest of your day. See you next time.